Could you give us your, into the camera, your facial expressions, what it was like reading the last episode for the first time?
What it was like reading the last episode for the first time
like
is
the different stages you went through.
I mean, it's pretty much one stage.
Okay.
Of just...
Game of Thrones is over. The season finale has come and gone. And to be honest, this is one of the worst season finales that I have ever seen. One of the most disappointing, one of the most rushed, one of the most poorly written, one of the most poorly conceived endings that I have ever experienced. And the problem is that you had all of these things going on, and the writers, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, were not talented enough or intelligent enough or creative enough to be able to have all of this play out in a coherent way. So without George R.R. Martin's creative works, without a mountain of it, the dialogue, the scenes, everything just turned out to be something that was extremely lackluster and couldn't build to anything. And what it seems to me is that when they realized they ran out of content, when they realized that they didn't have much of George R.R. Martin's work left, they just wanted to shut it down. Why on earth does season 7 have 7 episodes? Why does season 8 have 6 episodes? What possible reason couldn't you have for justifying that? Why would you not pad out that extra time? Why would you not take the full 10 episodes for season 7 and then do 10 episodes for season 8 and then potentially 10 episodes for a season 9 and then 10 episodes for a season 10? If you did that, if you committed to that, you would have all the time in the world to build to some epic, amazing conclusions. But this was an incoherent, disjointed mess that does not satisfy anyone, whether you're looking for a happy ending or a sad ending or something in the middle. This does nothing for anyone. The fall of Dany was absolutely ridiculous. I remember just 4 episodes ago, she was having sex with Jon under the waterfall. There was nothing in that buildup that would lead you ever to think that she would be the one to go into this mad fit. And that's not a good thing. You want to be able to show your audience that there are beats that they can follow, and if they had just been clever enough, then they could have seen this coming. But there's no way you could have ever seen this coming, because there's no way you could ever tell that one of the dragons would die, that there would be a fleet coming, that Missandei would be captured. None of this had anything to do with the story. First of all, let me just mention again, Missandei was worthless. In that world, not Euron, not Cersei, not Qyburn, nobody would know that she's an important figure, because she's not. She is the translator for Daenerys Targaryen. Do you know what that amounts to? That amounts to the person who brings Cersei her wine. That is not somebody that you trot out and execute on stage. But because the show writers understand that she's a whammon of color, and they know that the audience likes her, they use her as some kind of big moment. She's not. Now, Grey Worm, on the other hand, if he were executed there, it would make much more sense. He's the commander of her armies. He is the trusted force. If he were to be executed there, that would make sense. But this entire ending is built upon things that just are disjointed, incoherent noise. And so when it gets right down to it, when it gets down to the time to actually have to deliver and make something work, they just throw their hands up and they say, whatever. Oh yeah, Arya wants to become an adventurer now. When has she ever talked about being a sailor or going on to explore other lands? When has she talked about any of that? No, in fact, what she mainly focused on during her training was being near her family. She couldn't give up being Arya Stark. So now she's just going to go off into the middle of nowhere, into the great beyond, instead of doing what I think they should have done, which is have her and Gendry together, Stark and Baratheon blood, going down to future generations. That would be amazing. That would be incredible. Having Gendry be the Lord and having Arya be his wife. That would be incredible. That would be a great ending. It would be a homage to the beginning when Robert Baratheon says, I have a son and you have a daughter. That would be great. They didn't expect that, but that would be an amazing form of closure. But none of that even matters, because the build-up and execution of what was presented was terrible. Now, there were a couple cool scenes. The dragon melting the throne was pretty cool, but it has no significance because we just saw Daenerys die. In fact, let me correct that. That's not Daenerys. It's about as Daenerys as Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi is Luke Skywalker. He's more like Jake Skywalker. He's not really the character that you knew. And all it took was 2 episodes to make that happen. 2 episodes. And that's what they give you. So Jon rides off somewhere. You don't know where he's going. No significance to anything that he's doing now. No build-up, no nothing. So his journey's over. Sansa is queen in the north, which is absolutely infuriating considering the fact that she was the big blabbermouth that made all of this come to pass. She couldn't keep her mouth shut. I mean, all of this is just incredibly frustrating. Bran is the king? Really? I mean, and they don't do anything about the Night King. They don't explain anything. No deeper explanation. No deeper lore. No greater motivation. No deeper connection. Well, what was he doing with Craster's kids? What was he really building? Wouldn't it have been so amusing if the Night King they killed was actually just a puppet or a dummy and the real Night King was still alive? Wouldn't that have been amazing? Or here, how about this? Let me add to their garbage ending. Imagine that Drogon flies Daenerys to Old Valyria or Meereen or wherever. He flies her somewhere, drops her down, and out comes a Red Priestess. A Red Priestess who does her little prayer, and the series ends with Daenerys opening her eyes. Would that not have been 1,000 times better? I think it would. It would have been fantastic. It would have done so much. I mean, with Daenerys opening her eyes, she had just been betrayed. She had just lost all of her stuff. It would have been such an unbelievable ending. But even still, it would be like covering a shit in gold. I mean, there's only so much I can work with when this is the level of quality that we're dealing with. So, from my perspective, I'm kind of glad that Game of Thrones is over. And as sad as it is, this is just an absolute joke. And the petition is going to continue to grow to have them redo Game of Thrones Season 8 with competent writers. It's not going to go anywhere, but I'm going to sign this because it's a message. It's a clear message that I don't like it. And over 1 million other people don't like it as well. We don't think this is good enough. We don't think this is acceptable. We think you can do better. And that's the key here. You have people who gave up. You have people like D.B. Weiss and David Benioff who just don't give a shit. They're on the Star Wars. That's what they're thinking about. Why else would you do 7 episodes in Season 7 and 6 episodes in Season 8? Why would you not take full advantage of all the episodes, build things out? Because it's not a case of, well, we didn't need those episodes. No, that's clearly not the case. It's not as though we were being efficient here. No, they needed every minute of screen time to build up all the things that they had, to explain the things that had already come. I mean, I mentioned this in my other video about Game of Thrones, but what happened to the woman from Dorne? What happened to her? She was supposedly alive watching her daughter die. Whatever happened with that? Did they both die? I mean, that was off screen. We don't know any of what happened. What about the nun, the shame nun? Did we get to see her die? No. Didn't even mention that, didn't bring that up. But of course not, because if you're not even going to mention the history and backstory of the Night King and his connection to the men and the children of the forest, then what hope do these other side stories have? And this whole thing is incredibly frustrating. It's disgusting. It's absolutely lazy, incompetent, terrible writing, and that's it. You let this go out with a whimper, a sad, pathetic whine, instead of a roar, which is what it should have been. Game of Thrones should have gone out, leaving people not necessarily with a good feeling, but with a feeling of satisfaction. Instead, it's disappointment, utter disappointment. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'll leave you with is this. You should never feel that you have to accept something because you don't want to come across as a certain type of way. You don't want people to mock you for your passion. I liked Game of Thrones. I think that this ending is shit. I am perfectly within my right to tell you that I think this ending is shit. I am under no obligation to sit here and try to sugarcoat it and pat it out and say, oh, well, you know, there was this and this that were good. No, this is not acceptable. And knowing what you're worth and knowing what your time is worth and knowing what the money and effort that you put into it is worth is absolutely essential. And it's an important part of being a fan. These companies putting out this garbage, taking the easy way out. 7 episodes, 6 episodes. You're putting out less and less effort. And all for nothing. All for no satisfying payoff. Nothing conclusive. There's going to be no season 9. There's nothing they can do to remedy this. And yet this is where we're at. So I imagine that HBO is probably going to be mass unsubscribed, although I don't know if that's just a result of Game of Thrones ending, but my prediction is the subscription rate for HBO is going to absolutely crater, and what's going to be left is a company that only has itself to blame. Because if you had continued Game of Thrones and made it absolutely astonishing in the end, I think you would have more loyal consumers and more loyal customers, but now people are just pissed. So that's where I'm going to end things. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for supporting the Fan Advocacy Network, and I will see you next time.